Welcome back. We're continuing the news. We go to an assessment now of the budgetary allocations and changes. And we're now joined live by development economist and financial analyst, Dr. Nelson Chris Stokes. Dr. Stokes, thank you so much for joining us. I
Thank
want
you
to
for having me.
I want to start off by this announcement: no new taxes. Did the government have a choice?
Well, based on the philosophy of this government, I think that taxes are generally viewed as contractionary. So we have seen the minister speaks very carefully. He talked about no new net taxes, and then he spoke about no new taxes of any form whatsoever. But I think in an environment where they are pursuing a growth strategy, believe it or not, but we see evidence of that anything that is contractionary will be avoided. And I think taxes are contractionary. Therefore, they have opted instead to continue fiscal discipline in the way they approach things and to avoid taxes and anything that can retard the efforts to continue to grow the economy.
Another major announcement: the $2 billion allocation for those most affected by the increase in oil prices. Your own view on who should get it and when?
Well, several things were put forward. It's going to be tricky. $2 billion targeted to the most vulnerable, taxi drivers, students, and so on. You want to make sure that there's no overlap, that you're giving to the student who's then going to pay the same taxi driver who has already received it. I think that the idea and the philosophy of this government is to not only pursue free market solutions, but also when there is intervention, to have it on the side of the vulnerable. So I don't want to guess or pre-guess, where those discussions will go, but I think it's important, again, to avoid overlap, and most importantly, to deal specifically with those affected, the vulnerable affected by the increases in that petrol price. All right, which it could be through moderating fare increases. It could be through some sort of voucher that you use at gas stations. Let us see, but I would encourage, and I'm glad to see that it is in fact targeted and not attempting to blow up the entire budget faced with this crisis, but rather a structured, targeted approach.
And Dr. Stokes, there is also this new push to get the unbanked banking. Your own thoughts on what the minister
Yeah,
said?
yeah, yeah. So there are two things that seeks to address. You know what has been going on with the complaints about the bank fees. So let the bank charge fees. That the solution has always been an alternative to those accounts. And I think uh, Jamdex and what is actually an account that requires less know your customer or KYC. I think those two things together will make access to those who already have accounts can transfer to those accounts and pay less fees. And perhaps as important, if not more importantly, the opportunity for those who do not have bank accounts, who are walking around with cash, to get into digital transactions, which reduces risk, which reduces transaction friction, and improve. You don't have to go to the man house to give him the cash. You can send it over your
Digitally.
phone. So I think the fee issue is dealt with, and the access and the honor and dignity, the personal dignity that comes with having financial services, regardless of your social status, are important initiatives. And I think this approach will seek to address both those issues.
So much more to talk about, but my final question has to do with the new suite of banknotes. Is that necessary or unnecessary at this time?
In my own experience, I think the gap between the 1,000 and the 5,000 was always problematic. Thousand is not enough, and if you're making 7,000 a week, 5,000 is too much, as an example. But I think in terms of cost containment, the fact that these notes will last 50% longer, and the fact that they are more resistant to counterfeit, I see in the medium term actually being a sound financial decision. So instead of just keep replacing and replacing, I think it's this is a move in the right direction, and I think it's also important the symbolism of who is on those notes and what it means, and Mr. Manley and Siaga and our national heroes from the distant past and the recent past is a nice touch to what is really an important financial decision from the Bank of Jamaica, an important security decision from the Bank of Jamaica. So again, it all comes together nicely, and we look forward to getting these notes and being able to do transaction more conveniently and more securely.
All right, development economist and financial analyst Dr. Nelson Chris Stokes, thank you so much for joining us.